Okay, hi everybody. All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to begin. So, welcome to W4M Roundtable, hosted by Women for Mentors. This roundtable is actually an extension of Women for Mentors. This is our mentorship side. And we have a huge passion for bringing mentorship into our community. We are a nonprofit that we want to go above and beyond just giving out scholarships to students. So, we want to make sure that we are also creating a community where we are uplifting people and helping them get to that next phase, whatever that is, you know, your next raise, that dream job, just helping people get to their goals and coming together. So thank you for being here. This is very important. This is our first live, and we're so excited to be doing this today. So my name is Tiffany Foster. I'm a business owner and I am the president of Women for Mentors. I started it because once upon a time, I actually returned to education, and the experiences I had there caused me to want to pay it forward. I have joining with me today Ginny Overbay, who is a technical lead for a software company and has worked in tech industry for 6 years. Ginny is also one of our board members and also a fellow non-traditional student. And then we also have Christine Foster. Christine is actually serving on the board of Women for Mentors and is a formal non-traditional student and an advocate for women returning to education. So thank you to my co-host today. And with us, we are so thrilled that we have our guest, Pamela Silvers. Pamela Silvers is a retired professor from the Computer Technologies Department at AB Tech. This is actually also where Ginny and I met, and we also have the pleasure of having her be one of our mentors while we were there as well. She received her BA from the University of North Carolina, Asheville, and master's degree from Western Carolina University. She served as principal investigator for 3 NSF ATE grant entitled Skilled Workers Get Jobs, with focus on recruiting more students in STEM programs at local and regional levels. Silvers currently serves as PI for the Mentor Connect Leadership Development and Outreach for ATA project. So thank you so much, Pam, for being here with us today. We are so thrilled that we get to have you be our first official interview, our first official guest, because we just appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's kind of interesting, as you talked about being non-traditional students, is that was also my role, and probably one reason why I am so passionate that people can go back and get their education and helping cut down the barriers that might happen for that.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of that too, because I know that you were a non-traditional student yourself. So could you just go a little bit into that background and just tell us like where you started?
Okay. You know, interestingly, if I go back to my long story, my journey started in third grade, and my parents came home from school and said, "Your teacher said you could do anything you wanted, even go to college." And I'll say grew up in a farm family in rural Nebraska. My dad had an eighth grade education, not because he quit school, but because you were finished with school in eighth grade. My mother got a high school education, so their goal for us 8 kids was graduate high school. But that planted the seed that I could go to college. I had no idea what that was or what it had, but it stuck with me. And I did go to college right out of high school, which was less than successful. And part of it was I was a first generation student. I didn't know those unwritten rules or anything. And I did what a lot of women do. I quit school to get married. And, I said, I'm going back to school someday. Well, after a divorce in my 30s, I said, someday is now. I either go back to school or I stop saying I'll do it. And when I decided to go back to school to UNCA, my family all lived in Nebraska. I had moved to North Carolina with an ex, but I had residency. And I said, if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. And quite honestly, I went to UNCA's financial aid office and I said, I need help going to school. And they go, well, you earned too much last year because my ex's income was included with mine. And the person honestly said, come back in a year and we can give you all kinds of help. And I was like, what, I live in Pritchard Park for a year, and if I'm still alive, you'll give me financial support? I mean, it wasn't really the options. And so I started looking around, and I think that put into me, I did get scholarships and aid. I got my degree, started teaching. Really, there was a job posted for someone to teach a Saturday class, and I said, "Oh, I think I'd like that." Started teaching, said, "How do I get hired full time?" They said, "Get your master's degree." And so I got that from Western Carolina. But I think it put in the passion of me that I wanted people to know there was support for them, that they might not know where to look for it. So things like your program of helping non-traditional students, not only with the funding to go to school, but also the support that they can do it is so important.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, and with today, being our topic being mentorship and visibility, paving the path forward. I think it's wonderful that this is our group here, because we've all have these unique experiences in being those non-traditional students, and trying to figure out how to navigate moving ahead. And it's one of the things that I felt so fortunate about, and I'm sure Jenny could speak on this too, is like we felt so just honored that you had the programs in place that you did when we went back to school, because you did the same. You paid it forward. You had that experience, and you went ahead, and what you created in that really, I think, at least for me, I know it helped me. I want to create this, for other people too. I want to make this easy and accessible, because oftentimes it's hard when sometimes we have to speak up a little bit for ourselves and advocate for ourselves, and kind of put ourselves out there, and not everybody has an ease of doing that, and not everybody knows where to look too. Sometimes it's happenstance. I think we got connected with you, Jenny. Was it when we did the video
The
and
video?
everything? Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
mhm,
yeah.
yeah,
So we Jenny, you can talk a little bit about the video that we put together.
yeah, it was that's why it was kind of happenstance. It was just a an assignment that you and I were working on together. We sort of had a vague idea of what it could be, and Pam already had a lot of info, and you already had an event planned, and we were able to kind of plug into that, and then got involved with you
Yeah. And
basically just randomly through an
yeah,
assignment.
it was a grant. With our grant, I wanted and needed about a 3-minute video. And so I went to their instructor in digital media and I said, "Are your students doing any sort of project?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, they have to create a video for something." And mentioned it. And Jenny and Tiffany created a video that still does live on the internet, I think, with promoting STEM. And it really was the importance of role models. And one of the things I often talked about within the IT field is to name a famous person in IT. And I'm sure you all remember asking people, people can name Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, younger people now than I'm mentioning, but it was, if you asked them to name a famous woman, it was usually that blank look. And you can't be what you cannot imagine that you're going to be. And so the importance of having role models that have walked in someone's step. They say the movie Hidden Figures for young women of, oh, I can major in IT. And it doesn't only go within the computer field, but it really is that I had a student one time and I was talking, it was a woman who talking to a group who had not that were displaced and were getting women and infant and children support. So they had to take a class. And I started of what did you do this weekend? And one of them goes, "Oh yeah, my brother and I, we were replacing the brake pads. I do all the work for our family in the car." Then I said, "Well, what are you going to school for?" And she goes, "Oh, to become a CNA, certified nursing assistant." And I go, "Why aren't you becoming a mechanic?" And she goes, "I didn't know women could do that." And that was as recently as 10 years ago. And it was like, if you love working on cars, you're going to earn a lot more money and doing what you have a passion for. And by the way, the inverse also ends up true that a young man who maybe wants to be a nurse or be a early childhood worker is not going to see role models. And so the whole importance of being able to picture yourself was the theme of the video. It's also the theme of a lot of marketing materials we did is show students, a young man can definitely envision themselves being an IT person. We have to make sure other people can also see themselves as being in those roles.
Yeah, I think that was, I think one of the most interesting parts of that campaign, especially the Picture Yourself campaign that you had done, was just even for myself. Like I remember you would have all these different, guests and people come in and speak with us, and I sat there, oh my gosh, oh they're doing that, oh my goodness, like all these people like I didn't know, and different fields and different roles within in the STEM world. And it was so incredible because I was like, well, these are just regular people too that just decided I'm going to go pursue, so it really, even just, I know it helped us, as we went out, looking for jobs and whatnot, to realize we can broaden our search even a little bit, and we can, move outside of the zones that we thought we were kind of contained to. So that was, I mean, amazing. So with that, like what other impact have you seen, when women, they can see themselves represented in these roles? Like, can you give us some examples or what you've seen throughout the years over that?
Yeah. And I'm going to backtrack just a little bit,
Yeah.
but it is for anyone of if you ask people why they pick careers, it's because they've had the role model to be able to do it. I grew up on a farm and my dad was a farmer. Three of my brothers became farmers because that's how people used to pick their careers. If you looked at it, family restaurants, the grandfather started it, then the kids took it, and now people aren't taking over the family business. They're going into different directions, but how do you know what to do for it and what to look? So I think that exposure to what is possible and trying to see, having the guest speakers to come and talk about career possibilities that they have, but having the speakers be also the diversity, because if you can't see yourself in a role, you're not going to do it. And so you want to have women guest speakers. You want to look at who is, what can you do? And when I went to college right out of high school, there were probably 10 majors at our college. I mean, it was a small college in Nebraska. Now, AB Tech has 69 different programs someone can major in. So, what can people even possibly think that they have out there available? And so, I think for both young people, but people going back to college, of talking to people, seeing what's available out there, and then finding almost your own way that you make it possible for it. I had a friend who in Nebraska, and she majored in humanities, and you often think, oh, what are you going to maybe do with a degree in humanities? But she was also a good writer, and she became the editor of the Journal for Humanities from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. So it's taking a little bit of your passion and thinking, how can I make that into a job? Don't think you both were around when I really did talk, and I don't even know if it's updated each year, but the book, What Color is Your Parachute, which really talked about, you know, what do you enjoy doing, and then how can you figure out how to be paid for that? And I think within technology, it is such a broad-based field that if you have the basic skills, you can then end up doing almost anything.
Yeah, and I mean that makes me think of, I remember, and this is back when we were in school, I had gotten connected with another local group. I had won a scholarship, and this organization that had put out this scholarship, it was a group of women, and they invited me to come be a part of the organization. And while I was there, I got to serve on a board. And one of the women that was running that board, she invited me out to just go have coffee with her. And I was in awe because she was the coolest lady, but I mean, she had this really high powered job at Microsoft. And I'm sitting there just hanging out with her, just having a cup of coffee, and she's telling me like that, oh, you should come work at Microsoft and I will put a reference. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you think I can work there? And it was the first time that I ever like using the term, pictured myself being able to go beyond just like graphic design and stuff and really be able to excel at more of like a, a very industry specific career. And so it was so cool. And it was moments like that that I experienced. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want more of this. I want to be around other women that are just telling me, because there's something about when they tell, it's like magic when they tell me you can do that. I'm like, oh, I can. Yeah. Like, oh, I'll go do it right now.
And I think that's so much the importance of mentors, because a lot of times, if you are a non-traditional student, if you're first generation, your family doesn't necessarily understand. Now, sometimes families can be very cruel about it and say, what do you think you're going to school? You're getting above your station. And I had a student many years ago, and it was a male student, but his wife was so scared of him graduating and going beyond her that it was always that. And she would get her minister of, what are you doing that for? You have a good job in a plant. What do you think you're doing? And women get that a lot. And so surrounding yourself with the people who are going to give you that good feedback, the support and everything. And I think that becomes really important when you're a non-traditional student, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. After all, you could have a job, maybe earning minimum wage, but you'd be bringing in money, and instead you're going to school, you're causing your kids maybe to not have someone available to go to every single one of their activities or whatever. So having the women and the other people who are going to be your cheerleaders becomes so important for students. And I can say that little things can really make a difference. As I said, I went back to school at UNC Asheville. My family all lived in Nebraska. And I can remember during finals week that a group had given me a scholarship, just called and said, are you going to be home? But then brought, and it was just a basket filled with finals week goodies and everything, chocolate, probably coffee and everything. And it just meant a lot that someone was interested in my success. So I think the idea that not only giving a scholarship, but also providing that emotional support, because sometimes the people closest to us, even unintentionally, aren't understanding the stresses of being a student and the wanting to achieve and that self-doubt. I guess I say I still sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome, that I could be talking. I mean, I'm now running a $5 million grant, and I still have that feeling that someone's going to grab a hook and pull me in and go, what do you think you're doing? You're just that farm girl from Nebraska. Why do you think you can be doing this stuff? And so that doubt can be there, and it's so good to have what I always called my yes people, that are, I called them my feel good people. And they're the people that after I was around them, I felt good about myself. And I think it's so important for women to surround themselves with feel good people. And sometimes you cannot avoid the ones who are going to be the kind of Debbie Downers. So, you know, but you have to know where to get the feel good people so that when you need it, you have that support.
I agree with that. Yeah, so much. And that's actually a really great segue into, just for anybody else like tuning in, just to talk about. So that's part of what we're trying to do here with W4M Roundtable. We're trying to create this safe space. And this is the space not just for our scholarship recipients, but just also just for women in general to join in, to feel like, you found your tribe, your community, a space for professionals to really help uplift each other. One of the things that we have built our motto on is a rising tide lifts all boats. And so we always say we rise together. And I really, that's a really strong message, Pam, that you just shared. And I think also too, that's really ties into what we stand for, is just trying to bring people collectively together so that we can see each other succeed. Because over the years since I went back to school and my career path, I mean, honestly, I've seen the most leverage is when other women are supporting each other, and we're coming together, and it's not taking away from men. I just don't understand them. I don't have their brain. So it's really more just when I usually connect with other women, they tend to speak my language. They understand what I'm saying. They understand how I feel. They understand why this is hard. And like you hit the nail on the head. Going back to school is really difficult. I mean, that's a lot of times when you're returning to school, you have kids, you have bills, you have a lot of stress. Ginny and I always joke about when we went back to school, we were driving these ratchet old cars, and every other week we would walk out to the parking lot after class and one of our cars would be broken down, and so we'd be like, oh, we gotta go to AutoZone, like we gotta go get oil, we gotta get a tow, we gotta do whatever we gotta do. Can you give me a ride, like, and it was, it was a joke to us at that point because it happened so often, but it still was an expense then. And then it turned into, okay, well, now we have to figure out where this money's coming from to fix the car, to patch it back up. There's only so much duct tape that you can put on a vehicle before it needs actual work. So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's a hard time, but I mean, I couldn't agree more. And that's why we're so passionate about doing this. Yeah.
And the nice thing is you two had each other for your support network also, because if you had been walking out to the car by yourself and it didn't start, it would have been this, do you sit in the parking lot and cry? Do you,
Yes.
the fact that you had developing that network of people to be around you to be able to provide the support also becomes an important thing with it. And I think you get so busy, it can forget to do that taking care of yourself. So I think sometimes when, of again, giving the scholarship to the student or anything, almost giving them that forced community of, oh, I'm going to invite you out to coffee because, and you felt obligated to go because they gave you a scholarship.
Yeah.
Let's face it, when she asked you out, you were kind of nervous and thinking, well, I don't have time,
Yeah.
but I really have to go because they gave me the scholarship. And it ended up being positive for you. But if it had just been an in passing, you might have neglected to take advantage of that.
Yeah. And in all honesty, with stuff like that, and that's also part of the encouragement behind this, is to keep this going. Is one of the things that I felt was lacking a lot in some of those groups and stuff that I tried to join, is like in that scenario, eventually, like I don't think they could see past me being a scholarship recipient. I was a
Mhm.
lot younger than a lot of the other ladies. And I was just sitting there like so thirsty. Like I just wanted them to just fill me up with all the knowledge that they all had. I'm like, you all have experience in your career fields. I don't care where you're coming from. I want to know what you know. I want to understand the hurdles that you've jumped over. And in all honesty, there wasn't enough people that were like ready to sit down and have coffee. You know what I mean? And I just kept thinking, like, well, there's got to be a better way, like there's got to be a way to create this, because I understand we're all really busy. We live in a world today where everybody is so disconnected. It's very hard to get together. And how do we work within that? So that's why we're trying to create this space here, digitally, so that people can still feel that same form of connection, and can, help get together with other people too that have different positions, different backgrounds, to be able to help each other get to the next phase. So what do you think, when are some of the ways that you've seen people be impacted when they can get over these barriers, when they see other people represented that are like them in their fields? What are some barriers you've seen people overcome, to be able to, when they get to see that representation?
There's multiple levels on that, I
Yeah.
guess, is that first of all, just the initial one of what are you going to do? I think that it is, if you don't know that someone can be a certain profession, first of all, you have to find out about it. But then if all the stereotypes you get are not like you don't even think that you belong in the world. And
Mhm.
so, first of all, it's just having a cheerleading section that says it's possible and is supportive of it. And then I think it becomes that when you're in school, for example, seeing women who actually are working in the field is more than, okay, I'm in school, but other people have the job. And then, we're all going to have bad days. And part of it becomes the pressure that you get if you're representing all women. if you're representing all minorities, that suddenly it's not just you being you, it's you being an entire group of people or whatever. And so I think having the support network and mentors, excuse me, to know that you aren't alone, that you can get help with it, that when you have a difficult situation, you can figure out the how do I deal with it or something, because it can feel very lonesome. And if you start having that feeling that you're alone, it can get really um, easy to give up on it. So I think that becomes one of the really big parts of having a support network or seeing people forward. Um, on the whole, one study showed that it was about if you get to 30% representation or so, that perception wise, people will say, oh, the classes are about equally split, or oh, it's about equal there. Until then, it's harder. And if you're the only woman in a class, what do you say? And as an instructor, it becomes really important that you don't want to go to a student and go, oh, well, Tiffany, you did so great in that class. I'm proud of you. If you're the only woman, it's almost like what, didn't you think I'd do okay or something? So it is a balancing act for people to work on and to do. And I think, sometimes, of course, a lot of my work was with instructors of how do you make sure that you don't disenfranchise students. But it really is, as a society of our awareness and looking at it, I have no idea what relevance it has to what we're talking about, but it came to mind of there was a study done of, and this was about 10 years ago. So Judge Alito was still alive and or Scalia's, yeah, but it was interruptions of Supreme Court justices. And although at the time there were only 3 female Supreme Court justices, they had 60% of the interruptions. And so, and it was like, how did they react when they were interrupted by the males and everything? And if you think about it, I'd think a female Supreme Court justice would be a really strong person and they're being interrupted. How does that affect a student in your classroom who doesn't know that they belong? And so I think that becomes the support network of other people noticing, of even a male noticing and maybe saying, hey, wait a second, let's let so and so finish her thought beforehand, because a woman who isn't sure that they belong isn't also going to say, would you shut up so I can say something or whatever? So
Yeah.
it's really having that entire network of support that becomes important.
Yeah. Um, and I think I just want to point out to Amir, I guess, that we do encourage you feel free to just jump in the chat and stuff if you have any questions yourself that you'd like to ask, so that I will of course monopolize this time. And this lady's so important to me, and I'm honored to have her here. So, but yeah, so I mean, with that, like obviously we have this, and we're trying to create this digital space, but like, what other role do you think, businesses and other organizations can play in just fostering better representation for women?
I think that becomes a really, and it does become somewhat a difficult place to go, is that sometimes as people are moving up, there aren't as many openings for jobs. People stay in them longer, so it might not be the availability, but I think it is letting people know about things, making sure that um, if you're working with someone, making sure that they get the recognition that they need, or making sure that people all get an equal voice in it. I think that within jobs, they interestingly have done studies where they do things like having the blind interviews so you don't know the gender of the person. There was an interesting one for a symphony orchestra that they had to, if they had people auditioning blind, which meant that they were behind a black curtain, then women became equally represented in the orchestra. If they were visible, then more men were being selected. And interestingly, with it, they found
Mhm.
that they had to take the black curtain all the way down to the feet, because if the shoes were showing and they were obviously female shoes, they were getting picked the percentages overall with the study and everything. So I think we have to be aware of unconscious bias And there are parts of how do you do a job posting that you are making sure that it's appealing to all people. For example, if in the job posting you say certain things like, we want a go-getter, or, um, you know, they won't say a workaholic, but that sort of thing, sometimes that can have a person think, I don't match it. Interestingly, for a job posting, a study a few years ago, but I think it might still hold true, that for a woman, unless they meet 98% of the criteria, they won't apply for the job, whereas a man will apply if he meets 68% of the qualifications. So we
Wow.
have to look at what we're requiring and what we're doing. Christina is nodding her head for that.
Yeah.
Is
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's yeah, so
I think we all
yeah,
identify. This goes back to that imposter syndrome you were talking about
yeah.
earlier, and I think we all have that little voice in the back of our head that's like, I
And
don't think I'm supposed to be here.
yeah, and I don't know how we change that of having that, oh yeah, I can do it, but we have to not hold ourselves back. And so they start to talk about, if you're in the position of posting a job, make sure that what you're posting there is, um, you know, realistic, or are they really requirements, but encouraging people to apply. And I know I worked at Mutual of Omaha back in the 70s, and I know that there was a promotion, and I said, oh my gosh. And I eliminated myself from it. Now, I only lived in Omaha for 3 years, so it didn't affect me career-wise, but it could have impacted my whole trajectory because I self-eliminated of a job that when I saw who got it, I was so much more qualified than them to be able to do it. And it's having that confidence, or really giving people that, yes, I know you can do it. Oh, I don't know if I meet all the qualifications. Explaining and being, I think, cheerleaders for people becomes really important for it, because we do self-eliminate or have that doubt that we can't do it. And then and we miss opportunities as a result.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I think just over time and through the circumstances I've experienced and stuff, I think Ginny, you might fall in line with this too. But I think that, we've learned to just ask. I think Christine, you probably could say this as well. You just it's like, if you don't ask, you'll never know. If you don't try, you'll never know. I mean, the worst they can say is no, but and we still are dealing with that voice that goes like,
Hmm.
you're not going to make it. Jenny, do you have something to add to that? Yeah.
I was going to say it was funny while Pam was talking about like job postings and things like that, because I did notice few years ago when I was looking at switching jobs, and I was reading a lot of job postings, I did notice that definitely not all of them, and not even half, but some, there was a small percentage specifically said in there, if you don't meet all these qualifications, still apply. Trying to encourage, I think, people that, and like you said, statistically, it's typically women that more often will, like you said, read 10 bullet points. And if they don't have that 10th bullet point, they think, oh, I better not apply at all. So I did notice that there was at least a little bit of a shift in some job
Hmm.
postings, trying to encourage people to still apply. Like Tiffany said, the worst they could say is no. And if you don't try, it's a no anyway. So it's like
Yeah.
you're not any worse off. It could be a no because you didn't try, or it could be a no because you did. But either way, the end result is the same, but at least you gave it a shot, and obviously increased your chances of success by at least trying.
Hmm.
And you might learn something from it, even if you were to apply for a job, maybe get that first interview, but maybe they don't call you back for a second interview or something like that. You can ask them for feedback on why they didn't move forward with you or anything like that. And I've always thought that was really nice, that even in those situations where you get the no, you might also get some valuable
Yeah.
feedback.
And I think that's the other part is for females, and I don't have a suggestion for this, but learning that it's okay to get a no in life. There were studies done that, for a lot of us being raised, we were raised with the time that girls played with dolls and boys did the sports. I was a junior in high school before the Title IX was passed that said you had to have equal sports rights. And so a lot of it is that women did not learn how to take no as well. So if someone told us no, it was like a devastation stop point for us or whatever of, oh my gosh, I can't do it. Whereas, um, again, a study for students that when did the kind of a test score of an 88 on math, and women would often be doing oh my gosh, I need to switch majors, I'm lousy at this, whereas guys would more frequently attribute it to external factors such as dumb teacher, they asked stupid questions on the test or whatever. And I had this happen of 2 or 3 times that I can specifically think of that I had a female student come in and say, "Oh, I got my test results. I'm going to switch majors." And like in one case, and I learned to say, "Well, okay, and why are you thinking that?" And, she got gotten a 93 on a test and so was sure that she should switch majors to something else. So there's that whole part of our internal voice saying, "Oh, I'm not good enough for this if I didn't get a perfect grade." And like I said, they talk about is it nature or nurture, but part of it is thinking um, young boys play competitive games where they're beating each other up and then are best friends. Whereas if girls are doing that nurturing, playing with dolls, they don't have that experience of, okay, yeah, you happen to not win that one, but you'll win the one tomorrow or something.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, because I think something that it just made me think of was like as I got into the different careers that I've had, I realized that even just some skills that I already had before I went back to school came into play even more than those bullet point, things that were listed, and were even more important and lent themselves to me being able to be more trainable, or, pick that up easier or what have you, which almost made me even more qualified for doing that. And so I just wonder, like, is that part of that disconnect is just like, we're not we're not told just do it again tomorrow, like, because it's an interesting thing that for some reason I don't know why that didn't click though before.
It's, it is becomes interesting. And I think that's where having networks like this that people can talk about ideas and
Yeah.
going, oh, I'm not the only one who does that.
Mhm.
Last night I was watching a game show on TV and I thought, the person was losing and they were smiling still. And I thought, well, I'd be lousy on a game show because if I'm losing, I'm going to probably be getting sad and thinking, really get down on myself because I didn't know these answers or something. And I thought, Pam, that is totally ridiculous idea. But in my brain, it was that, yeah, if we don't succeed in it, it's almost, do we have the conditioning? Is it just our nature or what? That we're more likely to say, oh, can't do that anymore. I better go off in another direction.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's hard because I think in a lot of ways, we think we're letting other people down too.
Hmm.
And Ginny, I hope you don't mind not to put it on the spot, but Ginny and I were even just talking earlier because this obviously was our first live from Implementers, and so, and we were, talking about, oh, like, what if we mess up? What if something happens? You know what I mean? Like, what if, and I was just like, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, we don't know what we're doing any more than anybody else. We're just showing up and being like, okay, we'll create it and hope that other people enjoy what we created and want to be a part of it, but it's not, there's no secret recipe for it. It's just trying. you know
And Karen put a great thing in the chat and I think has things to add too.
yeah. So I'm sorry.
Oh, can I
Yeah.
just?
Oh, please, Karen. Hi. Yes. Join in. Hi. How are you doing?
Thank you for inviting. And I think it's when you're putting it out there, I just wanted to jump in at that moment because it's who you are and it's your energy. It's like when I got the invite to be here, and just for reference, everyone, I met Ginny and Tiffany, how is it, maybe 4 years ago at the women's conference.
Yeah.
And now I knew that I had to make sure that I made this call today because my mentor has been somebody that we met at that conference, and that's Annie Holcomb. And then now I'm starting to work with Amber. And when we did, she said, I remember meeting you with those two lovely girls in the garden. So it's how much of your energy that's what sticks. And so
Yeah.
I'm speaking up just to say, not just believe in yourselves, not just take a mentor, be a mentor, all of that, but just know when you do have that energy, it's that many years. And I still have whoever gave the Asheville, we gave the Christmas tree ornament, and whoever give one, take one. And
Yes.
I didn't make mine for Christmas. Mine is out on a wind chime out front for the last 3 years. So I
Yeah.
think of you guys, and that's how much of an impact your energy makes.
Oh my gosh, that makes my heart feel so good. I still have the magnet too. Ornament, yeah, the little ornament. So, I mean, I love that so much, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a good point. And I think that ties into too, like how we can all make that impact and that difference, though, right, in our daily lives, because it's beyond this space. It's how we're interacting in the world around us, and treating the other people that we connect with, and realizing. And I think this is the key point, is that we all want to help each other, and we all want to be a support for each other. It's just whoever speaks up and actually does it and shows up for it. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
I
So
wanted to chime in and also thank you for sending. I saw it on LinkedIn and I was like, oh, I've got to be here. I'm no video now because I'm in the car and I have my 2 kids in the back, so I'll be on mute.
oh,
But I'm just so excited for everything that you're doing, and I 1000% agree. It's like women lifting up women, and to share my story of meeting Tiffany and Jenny, I don't even know how many years it's been now, and I kind of stole her from somebody else that I'm not even friends with anymore. So we just kind of collected one another and have continued that relationship throughout, now living in a different city. And I wholeheartedly believe in this organization and what you're doing, in any way that I can help as a ex-teacher, now attorney. I'm happy to be a support and be a mentor, because I think people need. I went back to law school pretty late in life, so people need that support, even if it's just a one-on-one, like via Zoom, so that they feel supported, and knowing that they have a listening ear, because you never know what somebody's going through, especially that challenge that Pamela was talking about earlier, like, oh, just knowing that you have somebody there, whether it's out of obligation or not, just to say, hey, like, if you want to meet, please pick up the phone, or I'm always here to listen, because school is very challenging. Going back later in life can be very challenging with everything else that comes along with that, with kids, with bills, with adulting. It's just knowing that you have somebody that's got your back and who has been through it, I think is 1000% necessary. So sign me up for whatever you guys need.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much, Nina. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. I miss you, my friend. Thank you so much, all. I really, we appreciate the support so much, and love that you guys are joining in this. Yeah, it's really, and I think the great thing about everybody that's here today is understanding that is so important. We've all experienced the benefits of come alongside each other, helping each other out, lifting each other up. I mean, to be honest, my first job I got out of college, after returning to college, Ginny actually was working at that company and was able to put in a good word for me. So even things like that, because we all face that. I mean, we've all put in the applications, the resumes, and everything like that, and experienced that. Christine, I'm sure you can attribute to that as well. It's just it's sometimes daunting, and it's hard, and unfortunately sometimes too we do get those rejections and those no's, and they're like, oh my gosh, okay, how do I, what am I going to do, and I know that everybody here has experienced their ups and downs in their careers, and seeing, trying to get something to take off, or having to relocate or go somewhere else, to find the space that they can work in. So I appreciate everybody here, and I love all that. I'm really excited, and I think that those are really good stories also too, to just explain how people can help. I think this is the real life way that how we all can help each other, is just showing up. So what do you think, Pam, go back to asking, what do you think would be some just actionable steps, that women can take today, to mentor or be mentored, like, because I think, we've already kind of gone through, sometimes it's hard to put yourself out there, but are there any practical, steps that you can think of that would just help encourage people to, not have that no mentality?
Mhm. And I'm trying to think over the time of there's first of all, the willingness to mentor is really just sometimes the being there of sending out, a quick note, sending even a Facebook post of or a message to someone of, hey, see that you're having a hard time, or even if you don't see that they're having a hard time, just checking in with you because a lot of it is that we can be good of doing the fake, facade to everyone of, oh, it's all great, it's all wonderful. So just having the little bit of reaching out to people, and saying, hey, thought of you today, it's amazing how many times in my day I can think of someone and I don't take that timing to send a message. And so being good
Mm,
about letting someone know you're there for them. And like I said, not getting you don't want to get into stalker mentality, but
yeah.
yeah, just a quick of, hey, I am, you know, just thinking of you, or I'm going to be at this meeting. And sometimes it's letting people know you're going to a place, maybe sending something to somebody of, oh, I'm going to this event. Thought it might be good. Do you want to meet up to go together or something? Because again, if someone isn't sure about going, that can be the little impetus of there. I often say, you know, for us, if we have an event we know we should go to and we don't know if we're going to know anyone and we're going to be there, it's
That's
easier
the
to stay
worst.
home. Yeah. So
Yeah.
a student, it's even worse for something. So having the, hey, I'll be around or be able to go with you or something for it. And I think for it's really hard in a lot of ways to ask someone to be a mentor
Mm,
because are they at a place that they want to? And so you really want to approach things of maybe that cup of coffee or, hey, I'd
mhm,
really like some advice. Could I maybe buy you a cup of coffee? And don't have the full court press initially because people are busy and that could be overwhelming to them, but make the connections. And like I said, I have probably in my life what I call my feel good people that if I need a little bit of uptime, I um, know that, hey, let me just drop them a note and they'll make me feel good just by communicating with them. So look at your reaction after you're around people and work at
mhm,
surrounding yourself with the people who afterwards you're feeling better about. Because now there's
mm.
some people and my mom and I get along great. But if I didn't, I would be like, okay, if I always am in a bad mood when I'm around my mom, then maybe I better make sure I have something planned that's going to be good for me the next day or something for it. Although I have to say, my mother is 96 years old and lives in Nebraska, and the
Oh,
proudest
wow.
accomplishment
What?
is that I can make green bean casserole. Um, she she totally doesn't understand anything else, but when she found out I
Yeah.
make a mean green bean casserole for Thanksgiving, it was her proudest moment, I think, of me.
Oh, I
Um,
love those.
but
That's
yeah,
so
it's kind of you have to look, and the other is probably to work on getting the internal part of knowing that there's people who are never going to understand what you do
yeah.
and things, so don't let that guide your thought of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, and that's something I noticed too as I get older and what have you. It's the I have so much more care in the people that I want to surround myself with. The people that I want to put my energy into. And it's not to take away. I mean, I'll talk to anybody, but the people that I want to like really like be investing in me, like I want that positivity. I want people that are going to make me feel like I can accomplish things. One of our other board members is Sharon, and she actually is the reason why I started this nonprofit. And it's just because I happened to connect with her. I met her at a networking event, like through a networking event, through a third party. And we just started gabbing, and I was telling her about this, and I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, that's such a great idea. You should do it. I was like, oh, you think it's like something sparked in my brain where I was like, you think this is a good idea? Like, okay, I'll go do it. Like, and I just needed that validation, and it's not, that's not a weakness, I guess, is the thing that I want other people to be able to take away from that. Like, receiving that validation from someone else, I feel like is really something that we're wired for. You know what I mean? That connection, and being able to go like, okay, if you're telling me it's also good, it's not just in my brain. Like, I think I can do it, and you can get past those hurdles of feeling like, oh, this isn't good enough. Nobody's gonna like this, what have you. So, yeah, I love that, and I think that people can always too come join us, like Nina wants to, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, people can always come join something like this. But I love that what you said too is just like something simple, like sending a message. Stuff like that means so much. And I think even when I was in school, I got a random gift card was given to me by the organization, one of the scholarships I got, and they just were like, we have this, like, it was for coffee, I think, or something, and it was out of the blue. And it was not attached to the actual scholarship I received. It was just like, hey, we have this, if you'd like to come get this, we're thinking about you, we hope you're doing well. And it was just so little, but it made me feel like, oh my gosh, they care. Like somebody else sees that I'm working hard and they're like, hey, just keep going. And so that's all we want to do too. And honestly, if anybody else ever wants to contribute in any way, donate, support, or what have you, we even also encourage people too, for our scholarship recipients. We're like, people need their gas, they need their oil change, they need this. There's other things, other ways to help out too, because there's a lot that goes into starting over, and redirecting your gears. And it's not a path for the light. It's a hard road sometimes, but it's worthwhile. But some of these things make it a little smoother of a journey, I think. So
Definitely, it makes it that you've picked an okay journey to be on, because when you have the self-doubt and then suddenly, like you said, you're going, oh my gosh, where am I going to get this $10? You have oh, if I quit school and I did this and that, would suddenly, things would be better right now. And so having that little boost of someone going, no, you're in the right place right now, can be very positive and reaffirming.
I agree. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Pam, for just being with us here today. Ginny, I don't know if you have any last words that you'd like to say to Pam. I know we were so excited. We feel so honored that you were our first official guest and to talk about mentorship with you, just because it really for us is bringing this journey like full circle.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think the whole thing has been really exciting, but I was really excited to see Pam again and get to talk to you. I think at this point, let's see, I graduated 6 years ago now, which is kind of crazy when I think about it because it still feels very recent. But I look back so fondly on the years that we were there and the projects we got to work on, and definitely I felt very, very encouraged pretty much all the time, kind of going forward, especially in the tech industry. So very, very glad to get to see you again. So it meant a lot to me at the time, and hopefully we can continue to encourage other women in the same way.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. And
yes, seeing
yeah.
both of you or any of my students is always like, see, they're my students forever, but
yeah.
yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I just want to say thank you to our guests as well. Thank you, Karen and Nina, for your contributions and for your kind words. And I would love to stay in contact. And I hope you continue, just to keep being a part of this with us. And I appreciate y'all coming on this journey with us too. We're just I said, we're just showing up and doing what we can. I also want to just thank some of the sponsors that we have for Women for Mentors. You can find out more about them on our website. They do, help us bring this message. They help us, as we're growing. And if anybody's looking to ever donate or be a part of the organization more, you can also reach us. Our website is women4mentors.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, I would like to note that we have specifically designated a group, W4M Roundtable, which is for this group, for the people that are wanting to participate and be a part of the roundtable. And the reason why it's a private group is because we want to keep it a safe space, a space free from the public where you can post questions, you can discuss ideas, you can say, is there anybody, that I could chat with about this? Because, we all come into periods in life where maybe we're like unsure of something. It could be anything simple as like, hey, is there anybody that could help me review my resume, make sure it looks good? It could be, hey, does anybody have an idea of how I could tackle, asking for a promotion? It could be anything like that. So we want to keep it a space where people in our group can, communicate, lift each other up, keep encouraging each other. And so that's something that you can find on LinkedIn as well. And then, of course, we have Women for Mentors, our page that we would love for you to follow and stay in contact with all the events that we have coming up. So I just want to say thank you to everybody today. Thank you, Pamela Silvers, for being our guest. I appreciate it so much.
And there was a blast from the past put into the chat. The video that you both created in 2018.
Oh, you did. Oh my goodness, how wonderful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to rewatch it. Yes, the video was it was just so much fun. I cannot tell you how much fun we had just interviewing all these amazing people, asking this, putting the concept together. It was just a really incredible time. So I can't wait to rewatch that.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
I thank you.
Bye. Thank you.